Greetings. I'm Dr. Chris Domes, President of Neumann University, and my role today in the Leadership Matters series is to interview Sister Marguerite O'Byrne, our Officer for Mission and Ministry here at Neumann University. And as the Vice President for Mission and Ministry, her role is to help our campus community continue to focus on mission, our values, and the who we are. And today's interview will help us to understand how we've been able to do that over the last several months here at Neumann University. Sister Marguerite, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Domes. I'm privileged to be part of this Leadership Matters program. Thank you.
I'm privileged to be able to interview you. Yes. This is great. This is a great opportunity for the two of us who work together all the time to have this experience today.
To be in this environment, in the Irish environment.
Exactly. So I'm so pleased, and we've had an interesting year, to say the least.
Yes, definitely.
And as you look at the year and think about our mission here at Neumann University, and particularly the legacy of the sisters and the focus on St. Francis and St. Clare and our legacy here at Neumann, how have we been able to live that legacy out in your experience this year as we've been able to deal with the pandemic and all the other challenges that have faced us? How have you seen us living out that legacy and that mission?
Yes, Dr. Domes, that's a great question. And right from the beginning in March, soon after we celebrated the great feast of St. Patrick, we were removed from one another physically. But our motto at the Mission and Ministry Unit was, although we're separated physically, we are united spiritually through our values. And throughout these past several months, we in the Mission and Ministry Unit have made some very specific intentional efforts to root and motivate our work in the message of spirituality.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I know, how do you think the core values of Neumann, those RISE's core values of reverence, integrity, service, excellence, and stewardship, are approached and are experienced through this pandemic, through this interaction or lack of interaction or personal attention that maybe we've been able to do in normal circumstances? How do you think they've been lived out in your experience in the last few months?
Well, those RISE's values continue to guide us in normal times, and now in the pandemic, they have offered us some very strong, I would say, guidelines for that. To me, those values are the modernization or the contemporizing of the medieval values of Francis and Clare of Assisi. Having a sense of reverence. If there's any area of our world today that needs that, it's right here in the United States and around the world, obviously. That deep sense of respect and reverence for the dignity of human life, our integrity, obviously, and how we deliver on our promises. We say we're going to provide a spiritual experiences during this pandemic, that we continue to do that. Our commitment to service. Even though people have not been able to do that physically, we have continued to provide some virtual opportunities for doing that. And of course, excellence. And we could talk later about how our curriculum and how Dr. DiPaolo, through our academic affairs area, has continued to provide excellence in education. And of course, stewarding our resources, which is also very, very important.
Absolutely. You and I have spent a lot of time on Zoom meetings, kind of helping to lead and guide and think about our direction as an institution. I guess as you experience that leadership, those leadership moments, I guess what was your takeaway from that? What do you think has helped us as leaders to kind of move through this period? What do you think's been, I think, focusing on certainly our values, has there been things that you've taken away from that's been unique or distinctive from other experiences you've had, as far as just being able to have those opportunities to share in a virtual way, but also to lead in a way that's very unique and very, very unusual. So.
Yes. Well, Dr. Domes, I've surprised myself that I thought I still hold my fountain pen, that I will go to the grave with a pen in my hand. But I did overcome some of that, the challenges of how to master, because as you said, if you're going to lead, and I have responsibility for providing some leadership on campus with different groups, one has to feel comfortable with the technology. And thank God we were able to do that. What I have discovered about that, although I'm a very relational person, and we'll talk a little bit later on about how I've missed that so very much, there have been new opportunities to connect with people whom I probably would not have connected with, and help young people especially, because of all the people who need assistance at the moment and who are very vulnerable are our young people, young college students who have come into this environment from a high school experience that was online, and how do we continue to provide them with some of those spiritual, hope-filled, lack of helping them to be of their fearfulness of what it means to be engaged in an online environment. I have been pleasantly surprised with how we can master those skills and feel comfortable ourselves with that, and then continue to provide a connection. Young people and all of us need to feel valued. So by the proper use of technology, we could reach out and help these young people feel valued through Zoom and Microsoft Teams and other areas.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not just instruction, classroom, which you mentioned. We've done a good job. It's other things as well. I mean, it's virtual retreats, it's mass, it's prayer experience, it's sharing ideas with each other. It doesn't stop just simply at the classroom door, does it?
I believe that the spiritual exercises and spiritual resources, I would encourage anyone listening to this to go on our webpage, because each week we have done some wonderful spiritual resources to assist our young people connect with the transcendent, connect with our God. And Father Suresh, who is our university chaplain, has provided homilies each week. There are some very fine spiritual resources. Going back to our theme, we're separated physically, we are united spiritually. And I've been amazed at the number of positive responses from young people, from their families, from parents who have acknowledged that this has been a resource for them to connect with something, to get rid of some of that fearful experience, and to give them a sense of hope and trust.
Yeah, it's true. We've been highly engaged here on campus. We had 600 students living on our campus this past fall. We were able to maintain a really safe environment. And I think, and I'm just curious what's your understanding of why you think our students responded so positively in a way that assured us or gave us confidence that our community could do this, our community could do it. And you and I couldn't do it alone.
No.
We had to have a lot of people, including our students, respond really, really effectively to what we were asking them to do. And I'm curious, as you look at the difference of Neumann and what we've been able to accomplish here, how our students have responded, and why you think that they've been able to do that, or we've been able to accomplish that together.
Yes. Well, I continue to be impressed with our students. I believe that we have a culture here on our campus that really promotes that reverence and respect for the dignity of the human person. And since the pandemic and my interaction both online and in person, I can speak about the perch on the porch and the ministry from the porch. I've been so impressed, Dr. Domes, with the manner in which our students have not just assisted one another and taken responsibility for mask wearing and socially distancing, but so many of them have reached out to me and have said, Sister Marguerite, are you all right? They look at me like the grandmama of the campus. But that I have been impressed that they're not just thinking of themselves, but that they have had a commitment to the safeguarding and the safety of other people, including us on the campus. I believe, Dr. Domes, that has been the hallmark of why we've done so well. That we have helped our students through our values, especially that first one, and of course the others, the integrity and the sense of respect for others, that has helped us to get through this in a way that was not authoritative, that you didn't have to come down with a heavy hand, like you know, could have happened and happened in other places. Not that we want to be elitist, but we never had to do that because we were able to engage students in that respectful manner for who they are, providing them with those spiritual resources, helping to remind them of who they are, and acknowledging and assisting how they are valued individually. If you don't feel valued personally, you're not going to reach out and value others.
Well, I hope those listening to this interview can get a sense of hope, not just coming from one generation, but from a future generation.
Yes.
The young people that surround us here at Neumann. I think all of us need that hope. And as you were sitting on your porch
Yes.
And interacting with students, you might want to just share with folks what that was like this past semester as you were sitting on the porch and you had this screen, this sort of barrier with your mask,
Yes.
and how that experience, what that taught you, and maybe what you think it taught our students in terms of their interaction with you.
Yes. Well, the ministry from the porch kind of happened. I would usually go out in the summertime, Sister Linda and I, and use the porch for our prayer area because there was nobody on campus here all summer.
Right.
It was very quiet. You were like you were on retreat. And then as students came back on campus, as we sat on the porch and as I sat with my cup of tea, students would go by, and of course, coming from Ireland, you wouldn't let anybody go by without greeting them. And it flowed naturally that as the ministry house and the porch, as you know, Dr. Domes, is kind of in the center of campus.
Right.
And as people went back and forth to classes in the Miranda Center, or they went to their to the gym in the exercise area, we began to chat. And it became so that if I wasn't on the porch at a certain time, and I did have to go for meetings, Dr. Domes, they would wonder where I was. Why weren't you there? And that provided a wonderful opportunity to interact with them, get to know how they were doing in their classes. They felt so valued, I believe, that there were people from the administration who took time to, how are their classes going? Is there something that you need? Tell me about your family. So that it became part of what they were expecting. And I'm the chaplain for the field hockey team, and of course we didn't have athletics. So the field hockey team in small pods came occasionally. And Halloween, they all came dressed up, and I was a little nervous that they weren't keeping social distance. But it was a wonderful opportunity for us to reach out in ministry in person at a time when we were separated so physically distant.
And the students were, as they interacted with you, there was a sense of how are you doing? They wanted to know how you were, what was happening, and you were safe and feeling good and feeling okay.
That was a real gift to me. So I, again, I've always acknowledged that young people have some great gifts to give us and we can learn. But this pandemic has helped me to have a renewed sense of trust in how young people, in the right environment, culturally on a campus that does speak to the respect and reverence, the dignity of the person, will respond. And I believe that's extended to any organization, any workplace. People feel valued. And especially those who are most vulnerable. We have young people, many first-generation college students on this campus. And the commitment and the opportunity and the privilege that we have of having these young people in an environment that shapes their life and acknowledges and provides them with an environment that speaks to the dignity of the person in today's society, I believe is most important.
Yeah. As you're thinking ahead here, how do you think this experience of this past year is going to shape the future of how your work is done, of how the work at the university is done? You know, what do you think is going to stick? What are the changes? Or maybe how do you think it's going to affect us in terms of how we lead and think about the future of Catholic higher education and maybe in the context of Neumann, how we think about it here as a Catholic Franciscan university?
Well, I believe, Dr. Domes, the values that we already espouse and upon which this university was founded as Franciscan values are the foundation that we will continue to build on. I believe they will go unchanged. I believe what you have done, the word that comes to mind is transparency. You have led us, Dr. Domes, with that sense of transparency and spoken to the issues. There were some serious social issues that went on this campus and in our society and in our world and in our country since this pandemic. You have taken on those and helped us to take those on, whether it was social unrest, the economic situation of our families. So I believe that sense, we need to continue to build on that, that we as Catholic educators need to continue to look at, see how that sense of transparency of who we are and what we're doing can continue to be strengthened. I also believe, for me, it has, I would say, exacerbated the disparity in our world. For example, how many of our young people could not work at home because they don't have the technological capabilities that some students who are more affluent or in other areas of our world would have be able to acquire. That's why you initiated and supported that we provided laptops for students who couldn't find them, the Wi-Fi areas in some of the areas where our students live. I believe that heightened our awareness with that. So as we go forward, how do we, from a Catholic social teaching perspective, assist our people and our world and speak to what needs the future, whatever that may mean? I think we have to constantly to be open to that.
Yeah, I think you speak to there's a lot of disparity, a lot of inequities, and then how do we even the playing field? How do we make it clear for students that we're here to support them? You know, and I think that's, well, your leadership has been, you know, invaluable, and I've said to you many times, I couldn't lead an organization without exceptional people around me, and you are certainly one of those guiding stars for me. So I've appreciated all that we've done together. And I guess as we look at you received an award from the Chamber back in 2013, acknowledging your leadership. But I know you well. You're a person who, when receiving something, you don't take it on in a personal way. Your own personal humility allows you to share that with others. And sort of looking back on 2013 and to today, how has that acknowledgement of that leadership award in your own life, how's that continuing to shape you today as a leader? How is that acknowledgement of being acknowledged for the gifts that you have, but also sharing those gifts with other people, the importance of that? And I think certainly the Chamber obviously looked at you as an important person at that moment, but as I know you share that with so many others. So.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and I thank the Chamber for acknowledging me. Yes, very humbling experience, and I did receive it and acknowledge that day that I was receiving it on behalf of Neumann University, because I'm just one person in this whole environment. But growing up in the west of Ireland, in a remote area of the west of Ireland, in a family that put faith, God, family, and country in the forefront, receiving the Uachtaráin Award, the President's Award for the President of Ireland, was a truly humbling experience. I just wish that my parents could have been in some way, they might not have been able to travel, but at least be present or in some way have been here to experience that one of their children could receive that. Because growing up in Ireland in the 50s, it was a very different Ireland from what the Irish Chamber is experiencing today with Ireland. But it was a wonderful, wonderful, deeply rooted experience of what's important in life. One of the reflections that we did for Advent, because we did a reflection every day for Advent by somebody from the university, I did the reflection on the Christmas candle and how the light of the candle in an Irish household on Christmas Eve was a real symbol of the light that we were supposed to be for the world individually, but also the light of Christ that would bring trust and confidence. And I got some very wonderful responses to that, because I grew up in an Ireland without electricity. Our light was from an oil lamp and from a candle. I tell that to the students, and they look at me like, what dinosaur age did you come from? And you really could survive? Yes. And I'm saying that now because as I received that award, Dr. Domes, all of those thoughts flooded my mind. And there were thoughts of, yes, it was a humbling experience because I'm only doing what is mine to do. God has blessed me, but blessed me through a family that kept those values alive, and it blessed me from a country. From Ireland of the 50s and 60s was a poor country. So when I talk about the disparities here and help students to have another experience that will help them grow, I can speak to their potential, and that I can work very diligently to provide the resources for them that will help them reach their potential. That's what is such a privilege about working at a university like Neumann University, that's rooted in the values of Francis and Clare of Assisi and in the message of the gospel.
Well, thank you, Sister Marguerite. You're certainly a gift to this university and to our students. And your comments today, I think, really express for me and certainly for those watching a sense of hope, a sense of real hope for the future. And your own journey in life is an expression for all of us of not just having thinking about what happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or further back, but rather, what does that tell us today? How can it help us to transform our world at this moment?
Yes.
And I think you are a great example for all of us that really brings forward that light that you speak about, that Christmas light and that hope for all of us, and you do it every day. And I just want to thank you for that, and thank you for the opportunity to interview you today. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Domes, for raising your hand and saying yes to being the president of Neumann University and to the Irish Business Chamber. I believe that being part of the Irish Business Chamber has assisted Neumann in many ways, and I feel in some way I can connect between Philadelphia and Ireland in a real way, being part of the business. So I thank them very, very much for all the good work that they do.
Absolutely. I appreciate being a part of the organization and participating and meeting so many great friends and having so many connected here to Neumann.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.